Welcome to this special live stream session. And I wasn't gonna go live today because I didn't think the anything was really gonna come out. But some of the interesting reports came out today, as well as some of the news from Social Security. Even if you're not collecting Social Security, I think you should pass it on to your parents, grandparents, or anyone that you may know. But I just want to quickly talk about this because the inflation has come in a little bit warmer than expected. So what that means is that they were expecting a 2.3%, but it came in at 2.4%. So what we're looking at right now for the CPI, let me just start from the top here. And so it increased by 0.2% on a seasonally adjusted basis, and the same increase as in August and July. So the labor report came out last week, which I will get to that in a little bit, and that came in a little bit hotter than expected. But what's coming in hotter is actually food, and that is what everyone is concerned about, right? This election season is, you know, uh, cool. Gasoline prices have gone down year over year. It's negative 15%, but this food at home and food away from home is what's concerning to the American people. And it's actually really frustrating for the American people to be able to afford groceries. And this is not necessarily good news for the government to say, all right, yeah, we got things are coming down, energy prices are coming down, which is good. But food at home and food away from home being up by 0.4%, that is actually pretty significant. And people say, oh, it's just 0.4%. No, it's actually really, that's a lot if you look at the index. Okay. The other thing that really came up is it was motor vehicle insurance index. So it rose 1.2%. That is significantly higher than the 0.6% in the previous month. And here's the problem with the motor vehicle insurance and homeowners insurance in general. With the hurricane that's going on, well, major hurricanes now in Florida, don't be surprised if your homeowners insurance and vehicle insurance and all the insurance that you currently have go up. And it's not just going to be impacting Florida itself, but it's going to be impacting nationwide. Okay. I know it's people are like, why do I have to worry about my insurance rates going up if I live in Vegas, but things are happening in Florida? But you got to think about it this way. You have private insurance company. I'm going to, let's say this insurance company A is paying, let's say a $300,000 home, I'll just say $400,000 home in Florida, and 10 of them were a total loss, right? That's $4 million just by itself. Just let's say 10 homes were a total loss, and they got to, put the money in there. And if it's hundreds, and you see what's going on in Florida and North Carolina and Georgia, all the flooding that's going on, that's going to be increasing more damages. And then the private insurance, these companies are going to have no choice but to increase their prices. So don't be surprised in October, which comes out next month in November, when insurance index actually rises by a lot more than 1.2%. It's just one of those things that we're just, unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with. Airline fares rose 3.2% in September, which is pretty common for September because people do like to travel during the Labor Day weekend. But the airline prices do drop around January and February when they have the least demand throughout the year. And that's after all the holidays. So I wouldn't be surprised if the airline fares continue to go up going for the remainder of 2024. So if you're looking to buy tickets like now, maybe for next year, 2025, for the airline tickets, it might not be a bad idea to do it now. Or if you want to wait until January and just kind of start shopping for plane tickets, that's actually not a bad time to do it. They have a lot of deals out right now, and you can take a look. So for the inflation, came in very disappointing, and this is something that the White House likes to brag about is, hey, inflation has been decreasing, but when they see something like food going up, by 0.4%. And if you look at food at home, increased by 1.3%. That's where people buy their groceries, right? And if you look at food and look at dairy products, increased by 0.1% month over month. And the biggest increase is the non-alcoholic beverages index increased by 1.3%. And meats, fish, and eggs index still rose 3.9% over the last 12 months. And that is a significant increase. And a lot more people are paying attention to inflation right now since 2021, 2022. Back then, it wasn't like this, right? The food prices were never going up this much unless there was some kind of natural disaster going on, or some like maybe an uncertainty. When the war in Ukraine kicked off, the price of wheat had gone up because they're one of the primary exports of wheat in the world. But anyway, those are the things that are pretty. It's worth paying attention to, especially this is the last CPI report before the election, before election day, and the last one before the next Federal Reserve meeting. But we are going to get the next PCE inflation on October 31st on Halloween Day. So that's going to be something that's worth paying attention to. We have what was the other thing? Oh, okay. So now that the CME Fed Watch tool, I'm gonna go over just a little bit on the Federal Reserve meeting minutes. But now it's pricing in about 88% that they're going to cut rates by 0.25%. And there's still an 11% chance that they're going to maintain the rates where they are now and just skip the rate cut altogether in November. So the Federal Reserve is pretty divided right now. So it's not just Jerome Powell making all the decisions, okay? It's made up of board of governors in the Federal Reserve, and they vote on it and they make a unanimous decision. And the last Federal Reserve meeting, it was not a unanimous decision. And pretty much half the people on the board believe that a 50 basis point rate cut was necessary instead of a 0.25. And the other half believed that 25 basis point was enough. So, but essentially, well, at the end, they came to a conclusion that a 50 basis point rate cut was necessary because of the labor market. And they're really concerned more about the labor market than inflation now. But that's just the majority of the people, right? But there's still a small amount of people on the board. They're still concerned that the inflation could flare back up, and this coming in a little bit disappointed maybe for the inflation report, that might trigger them to say, well, maybe we should just cut 25 basis points just this once and see how it goes with the jobs report. And speaking of the jobs report, on Friday, leisure and hospitality came in at 78,000 gains, and as well as healthcare and social assistance at 71,000. So we're starting to see a little more lopsided job sector gains. So, no matter what you see on the news about, hey, the jobs report's coming out pretty good. And I'm not the one to be like I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but when I look at the chart and I'm like, well, that doesn't look necessarily good. I mean, if you take out government and healthcare and social assistance, it's not much of a job gain for the month of September. And if you look at manufacturing, it's still losing jobs by 7,000, transportation and warehousing by 8,600. If you look at wholesale trade, mining, logging, utilities, information, that's not a whole lot. So I'm just not seeing a whole lot of job gains if you take out those three sectors, or maybe just the two sectors. And the government sector jobs are still gaining. That's, government, it's not just the federal government, but federal, local, and state governments all lumped into the same. But anyway, that is something that that we do want to pay attention to going into November. We're going to get the next unemployment data on November 1st for the October jobs report. And that's something that's going to be, everybody's going to be looking at, because the Federal Reserve meeting will happen 6 days after that report comes out on November 7th, and not to mention election day on November 5th. So that's something that everybody's really focusing on is the economy, right? Something else that I wanted to let everybody know was the Social Security Administration just had a press release that there's going to be a 2.5% pay increase for Social Security recipients. So again, that's 2.5% starting on January 1st, 2025. And so over the last decade, it has averaged about 2.6%. Last year, it was 3.2%, and it had a significant increase from the year prior. In my opinion, in my honest opinion, based on all the clients that I have talked to, all the budgeting that I have seen, 2.5%, unfortunately, is not going to be enough. So I'm sure that's not something that people want to hear, and I'm sure people watching this or reading this news article, they're going to be like, "Well, 2.5%, that's it." And while food away from home and food at home CPI keeps coming in more than expected, and people just kind of, I know CPI is so generalized, like it's not very. They don't go by this city, the town. They just do the overall 2.5%. But what do retirees care more about, right? They care about the four walls they have. They may be renting while they're retired. Maybe they have their homes paid off, or they're trying to pay off their mortgage. Maybe what they're focusing on is definitely like food, transportation. So if you go back and look at food and transportation up at the top here, food, again, it's gone up 0.4%. If you look at transportation, that is a massive gain of 1.4%. That's just in 1 month. And that's going to be if nothing really gets done within the next month, which I really doubt, or maybe going into next year, the retirees are going to be struggling for the 2.5% Social Security benefit increase. And on the other note, if you're still working, if you didn't notice, there is a cap for the Social Security tax out of so the payroll tax comes with Social Security tax, and then there's the Medicare tax, right? So there's no income limit for the Medicare tax, but there is an income limit for the Social Security tax. And for this year, it was 168,600. Next year, it's going to go up to $176,100. So who does that affect? Probably like about 20% of the population. Oh, I'm sorry, it should be 15%. But yeah, so there is kind of if you make more than $176,100 a year next year, your Social Security contributions will be maxed out when you hit that income at 176,000, and then you just don't contribute anymore. This year it was 168,000, so that's about a $7,500 increase. Excuse me. So you're hearing from me now, but people are going to start getting letters from the Social Security Administration about the COLA increase. And the other thing that you should be aware of, if you are a veteran watching this, it's also going to increase by 2.5%. This is from military.com. I haven't seen it on va.gov yet, but when Social Security Administration, when they come out with the COLA, it applies the same for the VA disability because they follow the same CPIW. So if it's 2.5% for Social Security Administration, then it's going to be 2.5% for VA disability, unless Congress changes something and say we're going to add more to the VA disability for veterans or retirees receiving that disability rating. There should be a chart coming out pretty soon on va.gov. So if you are a veteran, just take a look. It is going to be a 2.5% increase. That is different from 3.2% last year. That is a decrease, and the year before was 8.7%, and the year before was 5.9%. So just keep that in mind. You should be getting a letter from your VA about your disability increase on that, and that's also going to be the same for military retirees. So if you retire from the military after 20 years, you're also going to get the 2.5% pay increase to their monthly paychecks. Okay. Okay. So I think that's about it. Oh, one last thing. Mortgage rates are going back up. I know people came and asked me like, hey, are the mortgage rates going back up? Why are the mortgage rates going back up? Well, a lot of mortgage lenders, they preemptively start cutting rates before the Federal Reserve cut their rates. So when way before the Federal Reserve meeting on September 17th, they start cutting rates at the beginning of September, anticipating that the Federal Reserve was going to cut rates. So they start doing that. And then when it got to September 17th, they continued to cut rates, but then it just started to rebound a little bit due to a higher demand. It's not just the Federal Reserve funds rate. It's not just the Fed funds rates, but it's also the demand, what the lenders are doing, and then there are many factors going into that. So um, I don't foresee the mortgage rates going higher than where it is now, but it is probably going to come back down, in my opinion, around mid-November. So we'll see what happens. But that's something that I'm keeping an eye on. I know there are people who are waiting to refinance because they bought their homes in 2023 with the 7% mortgage rate, and they want to refinance it down to like 5.5%. And I've read people in the comment section that they would be happy with less than 6% at this point. But I would say that based on what they're doing with the Fed funds rates, if you read the summary of economic projections, they are looking at cut rates down to about 3.5%, maybe lower. But that's not always accurate, but that's just a projection on how it goes. But if inflation flares back up from 2.4% now to, let's say, 3% next year, then they could just say, let's pause a little bit and let's not cut any more interest rates until we figure out what's going on with that. But anyway, that's really it. I just wanted to go over this real quick and then show you what because it wasn't just inflation, but Social Security Administration, VA disability, and all that. I know a lot of my audience, they either served in the military or retired from the military. So that's something that's going to be relevant to your information. So just take a look. And when va.gov comes out with the latest, the chart, the pay chart based on how many dependents you have, just take a look, download it, take a screenshot so you know how to budget for it next year. And all that. But anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will be live streaming again next week on Wednesday to talk about the average net worth in America. So until then, see you next time.